Great. Thanks everybody for the opportunity to tell you about Libera and our mission to make over $1 trillion of invisible commerce visible. Let me tell you a little bit about what we mean by that. Really, in the emerging world, outside of India, there are easily 2 billion consumers where there's almost no data collection from the stores where they shop. And at the same time, over the past 5 years, all of these small merchants have gotten smartphone technology. And that allows us to do something really amazing, which is to cut through the many layers of invisibility that keep the big brands like Procter & Gamble, our biggest client, from getting the sales data that they need. They need this data because they want to know what to buy, what to make, and what to make less of. And that's the difference between success and failure in the consumer goods business. And they're already doing it in the US and in Europe and in South Korea, but in the largest populations in the world, they're unable to do it. And that's something that we can do. It allows them to access really an untouched gold mine of data. And it's really an exciting time for us right now. We're closing our round, had a lot of capital come in. And one of the countries that I really love the most, that I've spent so much time in, have founded businesses in before, it's Indonesia, with almost 300 million consumers. And right now, we're touching what will be, by the end of the year, definitely 28,000 stores. But we're also starting to connect and get the data for almost 5 million consumers that are buying products from those stores. This is really exciting. And we're really creating a data bridge. We're the only company that can track how products move all the way from brands through the stores to consumers and incentivize everyone, even the smallest nano merchant in emerging markets, to earn more from their data, to have a more profitable business, and give complete transparency all the way to the consumers that are really the future of consumption on this planet, because the growth just isn't that big in the mature markets. It's really countries like Indonesia that have the future of consumption. So we're excited to be getting this data to put it on our balance sheet to build a great business, but also to really do something even more amazing. And that's to double the monthly income of more than 1 million small families. So how is this possible? Well, it's possible because essentially they can't sell their data today and they don't know what products to buy. Your typical small merchant in Indonesia or Philippines has a top line of something like $3,000 or $4,000 US. They earn about 10% on that. And so that means they're taking home about $300, $400, sometimes less, to be honest. Now, that money is going not just for the mom and the mom and pop shop, it's also going to the kids. So I started to realize this as I was doing survey interviews over the past couple of years in several countries. This is really how a lot of families live. And it's also how most consumer products move to most of the people on planet Earth. And what we can do, and starting already, is we can give them new income from selling their data. That comes from the fungible Libera token. And we can improve their sales, improve their top line, and also really significantly improve the bottom line by having a better inventory mix. By allowing them to know exactly what's selling in their district and translate that through the Libera conversational local language recommendation engine into insights about what they should put in their shop. So this is paying them for their data, but it's giving them also an amazing set of AI insights. It's like a data science team in their pocket. How can we afford to do this? Well, we can afford to do it because the world's biggest brands have very large data budgets. They want to know what products are being sold, and they have even bigger trade promotions budgets. We tap into both of those. That's in the tens of billions of dollars per country, per month. And we channel a significant part of it to the stores for their data. So our mission then becomes not just getting a lot of data that the big brands want, and not just giving AI to the distributors and the big corporations. Our mission really involves doubling that take-home income for millions of so-called nano merchants. Because so many of them are mothers, I found out, particularly in Southeast Asia, and it's the mission of doubling the mom EBIT, if you will. So that's an exciting part of what Libera is all about, not just building a great business, but also helping people. And it's just a great time to do business in Indonesia. I would say I just came in from there. The government is fully behind crypto. I was presenting at CoinFest with some of our other partners, and the government was right there in the room with us. And it's a fantastic time for the country. People are really optimistic. Almost 300 million people. It's been growing 5% a year for over a decade. And there's about 18 million crypto users. So right now we're at about pretty close to 20,000 stores and about 1 million consumers live data, but that should be at 3 million by the end of the year. And that's in a store universe for Indonesia of about 4 million. So we can just keep ramping and rolling more and more users, getting more and more data, more and more brands as clients. So here's, don't just take it from me, take it from one of our users in Java.
Halo, hari ini saya ingin sharing gimana sih pengalaman baru saya menggunakan aplikasi yang sangat-sangat bermanfaat bagi kalian para pemilik toko. Aplikasi ini bisa mengubah cara saya mengelola toko dari yang biasanya manual seperti ini bisa otomatis dan praktis untuk menghitung laba, untuk menghitung penghasilan, belum lagi untuk mengidentifikasi produk-produk yang kurang menguntungkan itu sangat memakan waktu. Tentunya ada teman saya merekomendasikan aplikasi yang namanya Libera. Kata teman saya, semenjak dia menggunakan aplikasi Libera ini, dia bisa mendapatkan klien baru, sumber produk baru, dan juga meningkatkan penghasilannya. Jadi kali ini saya ingin share kepada kalian bagaimana pengalaman baru saya menggunakan aplikasi. Nah, caranya mudah sekali ya untuk menambahkan produk ke inventaris. Aplikasi ini dilengkapi dengan katalog item populer yang sudah dimuat sebelumnya. Cukup pilih kategori dan produk dari daftar, sesuaikan dengan stok, lalu sebar. Jika ada item yang hilang, Anda dapat menambahkannya secara manual. Yang paling menarik di aplikasi Libera ini adalah asisten AI. Di sini kita bisa tanya apa saja seputar toko atau produk. Gampang banget kan? Nah, tentu saja asisten AI ini sangat membantu kita untuk memeriksa stok dan juga mengetahui produk apa saja yang sedang populer di lingkungan kita. Saya berharap pebisnis lainnya dan juga teman-teman saya juga mendapatkan kesempatan untuk menikmati aplikasi Libera ini dan juga merasakan manfaat-manfaat yang ditawarkan oleh aplikasi yang satu ini.
So I hope that tells the story a little bit in terms of how the app is easy to use. We're getting more and more merchants to interact with it. Some of the things that we're pioneering in addition to the app are voice to data and receipt scan, really allowing even semi-literate consumers and stores to share information with us and be rewarded. So it's not just about that, but it's also about the knowledge graph and the infrastructure technology that we are using to power some of our partners with AI insights that gives us more users and more data. But this is just really an exciting time for data in the supply chain in general around the world. And we're looking at changing what I believe are the biggest supply chains by volume on the planet, right? These are the supply chains that take daily goods, shampoo, shaving equipment, razors, soap, and toothpaste, to billions of people. It's the stuff people buy every day. These are the biggest supply. Everybody thinks maybe Apple, but it's not. These are the biggest supply chains in the world. And we help them to become Amazonified. So Amazonification means knowing what consumers are going to buy in Chicago or in Jakarta, and you make that. And you make less of what you predict they aren't going to buy. And the companies that do this first gain market share. So it's existential to all the big brands to do this. If Unilever does it before Nestle, you know what's going to happen. So it's a race for all the big brands to get this sales data. But we're the first company, and I believe today, the only company on planet Earth that democratizes that data ownership. And we give a 25% cut. So if the data is used in an AI model or it's bought directly by a large corporation, 25% always goes back to the originators, the small merchants in this case, to get a new income stream. So as we distribute the token to the users, there are 3 levels of rewards and staking. So first of all, if you've got data and you sell it, we measure you on data reliability, data quality, and data quantity. And that's it gives us an anti-fraud mechanism to give the right levels of economic incentive to the merchants. But as we started working with merchants in many countries, we realized how important it is for them to get some insights on what's happening in the area. Really, they've been operating these businesses on guesswork for generations. So it's about giving them better AI insights than Nielsen gives today to Nestle. And it sounds amazing, but it's completely possible. And we give it to them not for free, we actually pay them for it. So that's the exciting part of the Libera mission, is then they just need to stake the tokens that they're given to get those AI insights on what products to buy and where they can get products at competitive prices. So amazing, this is a space that's raised a little bit of money in the last few years. About $250 million has gone into the space just in Southeast Asia. But we're the only multi-market operator in this space, and we're the only Web3 company in this space. So we go head to head against Nielsen as the only multinational provider of retail sales data in emerging markets. But whereas Nielsen has a centralized model where they take a little bit of cash and give it to a very small number of stores and then extract insights from that, we make our data acquisition completely traceable. And with the smart contracts between the buyers of the data and the sellers, we give trust around where this data is coming from. And it's really an amazing thing in Indonesia when you get to show people in the community of small stores that, yes, here's a company that's actually giving a cut of the economic value of the sales business activity in the community on a consistent basis back to the merchants. And it's something that also gives trust to the sellers of the data in working with us. So that's really how we're different from the competition out there. Really excited about the world-class management team we're putting around this, with fantastic teams in country, but really strong AI team with Jack in Hong Kong and Ahmed in London, although he's in Jakarta at the moment. These are really guys that really understand how to build knowledge graph technology, and I've known Ahmed for about 6 years since I was running sales at an AI company where we worked together. That was the company I joined after my first startup, which worked in Indonesia, Philippines, China, India, Pakistan, with a lot of the major brands solving proof of delivery visibility problems, where we use blockchain to get micro incentives to truck drivers that made $250 a month to get them to do the right thing and solve really big problems. So I had a career in DHL and other big corporates where I really spent a lot of decades understanding the region and understanding how to sell to major brands. And now we have the AI and the Web3 tech team to complement that. We were fortunate to get started early on with investment from Expert Dojo in Santa Monica and also from Animoca. Built the MVP, had a little bit of support during crypto winter from European government, like in Vega. But we're really excited about where we are in our current trajectory, with support from Singularity DAO as our main launchpad, investors like Pools and Evo. We were incubated by Bybit in the Blockchain for Good Alliance, which is a social impact initiative they created. We were the first project invited to join, and have a great market maker relationship with G20. But most recently, since I was at the DNA House in Nashville, we've closed basically all of our round. So we don't have a lot left to raise. So we were raising $5 million. We're just keeping a little bit of that open for strategic investors, but we're just really looking for friends and partners right now. People that like the Libera story, that want to be part of it in one way or another, that want to help us build our community, and then to be a participant in some way, and hopefully a very successful TGE later this year, which we'll finalize the exact date soon, but it'll be around the date of the US election. We've got customers like Procter & Gamble asking us how many stores we can do and how many countries we can do. So we really need to amp up our sales team and our operations team and continue to expand our technology deployment deeper in Indonesia, further in Philippines, in the Middle East, and looking at Africa very soon. So hopefully that's a good overview on the power story of Libera, making money and delivering some impact. So thanks a lot, and if there's any questions. Yes.
Who sells the data? How do you sell the data? And how do you sell the data? You collect the data from all these merchants. What's the process by which you sell it?
Yep. We just sell the data raw per store per month. The market bears about 40 US cents up to $1, depending upon the brand and the country, per store per month. And
I mean, like, what's the process that's happening? Like, you collect all this data from the stores,
Yep.
and then who's selling that data to the buyers? What's the business development process for taking it from the store collection to actually selling it to the people that you would be competing with at Nielsen or whatever that is? So like Procter & Gamble's going to buy the data. Who's selling into that?
Well, that's an enterprise sales process. So, it's something I did for about 10, 15 years. We have a pretty strong enterprise sales lead. He's helping us to win these deals while I'm traveling around at events like this. But it's a B2B sales process with a sales funnel and pipeline, certain time to close, but it is happening.
So they're out there pitching the data to the data buyers.
Right.
And is there like a marketplace for the buying to happen? Like, can the buyer of the data go online and buy the data, or do they have to buy it through this enterprise sales process?
Not yet. That's in our product roadmap. Is sort of a decentralized data marketplace that will allow us to scale a little bit more quickly. But at the moment, we're just doing commercial deal by commercial deal. But we know we want to build that to make it easier to sell and allow them to even buy the data on a streaming basis, because the way that companies consume this data has really changed. It used to be that, especially in emerging markets, you do twice a year meeting with your distributors, do a demand forecast, maybe use Excel, and then you make what you make, and then you push it out to market and discount what you have to discount. And all of that's being changed, really led by Amazon, really. And you can see in countries like the US, it's a completely different process where they start to buy the data even weekly or daily. And so what we're seeing is like one of our biggest new clients is Friesland Campina. It's a 14 billion euro dairy company. And a lot of the data that they get in emerging markets comes back 4 to 6 weeks after sale to distributor, and they're in dairy. So it's not very useful for optimizing inventories in a dairy supply chain. So they want the data at least weekly. And that's really a big change. And if you go back 10 years ago, it would have been impossible. Now it's starting to become possible. And then with Libera, I think they can start to get it even daily. And it seems that the brands will pay a little bit more for that, particularly if the data is of good quality. So that's really where there's a lot of potential revenue. And we're also encouraged by the amount of trade promotion spend that we can start to tap into, that we're starting to tap into in Indonesia. And that's a bigger number than the spend that the brands have for data from Nielsen. And I can explain a little bit how that works, but basically that is trade promotions that big brands are giving 10 to 20% of top line, in some cases, to distributors and other partners to promote products, and they need to know how those promoted products are selling. And we can also become a better avenue for that. So these are areas of spend by multinational corporations that we can tap into on the revenue side. Longer term, I know that we can get data revenue from fintechs as well, because all the fintechs basically want to finance this huge part of the economy, but they don't have data on what's happening. And we can take a 2 to 4% cut of that as well. So right now we've got it proven that we can sell this to multinationals in a couple of markets, and we know that we can build a quality revenue stream around that on data revenues and pre-promotions, and then the fintech revenues I think should be interesting down the line.
Okay, nobody else can ask a question. What does the pricing look like when it, like, how do you determine the price that the buyers are buying the data for? Are they doing a SaaS fee every month to access the data, or they're buying it on a case-by-case basis?
Well, there are some companies like Philip Morris has a lot more to spend on market intelligence than Colgate-Palmolive or a local Asian brand. But you might be surprised, one of the biggest new clients we're starting to work with in Indonesia is Kalbe Group. It's a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate of nutrition, powder, and pharmaceuticals, and they look like they're a pretty good payer. They've got significant budgets around it. But I would say, as a general rule of thumb, in these countries, you're looking at about something like 50 US cents per month per brand per store.
So they don't sign up on a SaaS basis. They sign up on kind of a media buy kind of basis. They're buying it.
We have some SaaS revenue from the Knowledge Graph product, and some brands that say, hey, can you analyze our own e-commerce data, for example, as well? But that's really not the core cash cow for the company. The key cash cow for the company is getting a very large number of merchants, selling that data at scale to multiple CPG companies in multiple countries, having that data on the balance sheet so that if Nielsen wants to buy us in 5 to 10 years, that's what happens. They acquire that company, the data's on our balance sheet, and there's an additional services revenue around that. But the key thing is having that data and then giving that cut back to the originator. So there's a good story, and we feel good about it, and also it just keeps the flywheel going.
Thank you.
Yes, Reem, how are you?
Hi, good, how are you?
Yes.
I know a lot about the product,
Yeah.
but I didn't know the fintech part. Would you just explain the fintech part?
The underlying technology. So our tech team has a lot of strength around knowledge graph technology. As when I started working with these guys a few years back, they had come out of another very famous company and wanted to build a knowledge graph for the global supply chain. And I said, well, I think I know about supply chain. But what's knowledge graph, right? What is this? And basically, knowledge graph technology allows you to look at data and information kind of like the human brain processes it, a little bit more informally, as opposed to using structured queries. And when you look at information in a more flexible way, it allows you to analyze more data. So basically it means better insights with maybe even less data. And it's really important, and it's something that's been so valuable in our sales process very recently, and fundraising process too maybe, but it's really key. Now that we can really demo and show knowledge graph and how that extracts data from merchants and gives insights on that back to the merchants and to the brands so that they know what to make and the merchants know what to buy, it's a game changer. And then we're the only company on the planet with a knowledge graph for emerging market retail data. It's decentralized, which allows us to do some interesting things around trust, but also to compensate anybody that we want to that's feeding into that ecosystem and give them that 25% cut. So it's a little bit, some people would say deep in, but that's an infrastructure angle. And recently we've been introduced to other potential data partners in some of these markets where they've got traction with stores, but they don't have the knowledge graph. And they don't have the Web3 story around a fungible rewards mechanism that's traceable. So those are things that we can offer, and it's giving us a really big pipeline at the moment. So looking forward to execute on what we have in terms of traction, and then after TGE, expand on that.
Thank you so much, Max. I'm sure you'll be around for some time if anybody would like to speak with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everybody, Max
Okay.
Ford. Amazing project.